On the fix, we dig deep. President Cyril Ramaphosa's stimulus plan was dismissed by the South African Federation of Trade Unions, which called it old wine in new bottles. And others, of course, are saying it is exactly what the economy needs to get kick-started. Well, economist and senior lecturer Lumkile Monde is first up to assess the plan with us. Lumkile, welcome to the
Thanks
fix.
for having me. Good evening.
Hi, Lumkile. Nice to see you.
Now, the big question, of course, is where is the money going to come from? We talk about 400 billion that's going to be activated around infrastructure. We're also talking about 50 billion that is going to be reprioritized. Hilary Joffe, your colleague...
Well, then there's a mega fund, right?
Yes.
Mega fund, I mean.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Essentially says this is not a stimulus plan, this is a stabilization plan, but it can attract the right kind of attention. What do you make of what the president has announced, Lumkile?
So, very importantly, when we're talking about the stimulus, we're talking about something that will push our aggregate demand high. That is, take us out of the recession that we're in, create jobs and create wealth for investors. This is not the plan. So what we're trying to do here, we're saying, you know, we understand the depth of our problem. So in order for us to respond rapidly is to look where we can reprioritize. By reprioritizing, be able to kickstart some of the areas where we can generate some growth. So the 50 billion that's talking about really is taken from other departments. I think the detail will come in the medium-term budget policy statement. And then when we come to the bigger one, remember, we had the Presidential Infrastructure Coordinating Committee.
Yeah.
And the idea there was also because, remember that every department has got some form of infrastructure, the water, and in the case of electricity, we still have got the extension to rural areas that we have not yet electrified. So it's taking all those pieces together, put them into one pot, because we know that a lot of those were leakages. This is where the state capture happened. This is where the corruption happened. So if you centralize that and ensure that within the presidency, there's a fund and there's capability inside there, as the president announced.
So he's assuming that there's 400 billion rand still left of infrastructure funding out there.
There's still some, if you go into the individual budget, there's a lot of funds that are supposed to go in infrastructure. Yeah. So you just bring them back into one pot, and then based on that, we see, for example, water. Water is a huge priority, Peter. So it's an area where we need urgent intervention. So I'm hoping that the Minister of Finance will talk to it so that you can really move, particularly for
to be honest, I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day in Mthatha, and he was telling me he's involved in a project right now, and they're busy doing it. Pumping water from Mthatha to Lebodi, Neleni, I don't know if you know these areas.
Yes, very well.
I saw you wrote about it in your column.
I put it in the Sunday Times column. I was blown away. I mean, it's a very long way to take water from Mthatha to Mkanduli, trust me, you know, and it's uphill and downhill. And it's a big project. And so these things are happening, but they're out of the public eye. I also had a briefing from SANRAL the week before last. And it was just stunning what they are doing on the N2 toll road. We don't see it or hear about it.
No, until you drive there.
They're going to build two of the biggest bridges in the Southern Hemisphere. Through every little village that they're passing, they're saying to people, come, let's show you what we're doing. First of all, we're going to come through here. How do you want us to do it? What do you need?
Okay, guys, both of you are enthusiastic about this plan. I can see that. And I'm not unenthusiastic, but I'm skeptical. So I'm going to...
You have to be skeptical.
Yes.
After the 9 years of Zuma. After 9 years of Zuma, you've got to be skeptical.
I'm going to put the big question on the table. And Peter, you raise it in your column. And Lumkile, you've spoken about it a lot. What is required here is state capacity.
Yes.
If you're going to reprioritize, you're going to have to do some trade-offs. You're going to have to get committed civil servants who's going to actually implement and not steal the money. Let's start with you, Lumkile, and then I want to hear from you, Peter. Do we have enough of a cadre of civil servant that is going to be able to be Tumamina to make this work in the state?
We've got lots of those outside the state at the moment. Remember, the hollowing out got rid of quite a lot of brilliant black professionals who had been in the state. But more importantly, Karima, mustn't forget that a lot of also the old white skill in their mid-50s who are capable. So we're rebuilding our country. So we need to go beyond race because we mustn't forget that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, black and white. In that regard, when you're reconstructing, you mobilize skills. So I'm hoping that what the president said on Friday is really tapping in those black skills that left because of being hollowed out by the Zuma regime, but also that white skill that is busy playing golf and sitting nicely in Neisner or in George to come back and help us to reconstruct.
I think it's dead easy. Hey? I mean, if you know, let's say one of your projects is to lay a pipe that that wide from here to, I don't know, Cresta in Johannesburg. Okay, it's 20 k's. You calculate, you know how long it should take. I mean, because you're an experienced engineer, you've been co-opted into this project from the private sector. Your Oricons or whatever they might have been, construction companies have put in engineers, accountants, quantity surveyors, all to make this happen. And if it isn't finished in 4 weeks, which is what it should take normally, then you start saying, we want to know why.
Yes.
And if somebody says, oh, no, because this department's not doing, you call that department, you fix the problem, thank you, now carry on. And you can, with private sector and the state doing this thing together, you can get this stuff done. Infrastructure is not difficult. It's concrete and reinforced steel and rebar, basically. Dead simple.
I don't have any arguments with what you guys are saying. I think it is as simple as that. The problem is, if it was as simple as that, why did we in 24 years not do it? And it's not only President Zuma that was in charge. We had things like Kucha under President Thabo Mbeki that went absolutely nowhere. The question of actual skills, I mean, we saw, you were saying, Peter, President Ramaphosa is going to cut through the red tape and get scarce skills into the country. We're going to, make it much easier for people to actually come in and bring those skills in. How soon do you think he's going to be able to turn around fairly, let's say, people who are actually quite debilitated in the state? How is he going to turn those people around to get these projects going, Lumkile? Let's take Home Affairs, for example.
I mean, Home Affairs already, we've seen a huge change. Remember, through tourism, that interaction is very positive. We're talking about e-visas now. We're talking about people with children who live elsewhere who can come in and out much easier now. So there's lots of things that's happening. But I think, Karima, what one has to look at, if you look now, 24 years ago, what we didn't do very, very well was ensuring that as we bring in black skill into the public service, making sure that the benefits that were there remain intact. So what we had was that we hollowed out particularly teachers, a lot of experienced teachers, because the pays were far less in teaching than being a director in government. They all shifted. I mean, there's so many teachers everywhere. So those issues we're now aware. I'm hoping that as we do that, in state formation requires you to have long-term benefits. So the outsourcing thing, whereby people don't have benefits by the way for the state, has to end so that we create a state which got people that are loyal to it. People know that I've got a pension fund, I've got medical access, and through that, I'm committed to servicing the people.
That's talking about building a capable state. But Peter, what is Cyril Ramaphosa going to have to say to business to get them to the party? Because the argument has been that domestic capital has sat it out. They are not trusting the government. They are afraid of being bullied and harassed. He has tried to cut through some of the red tape with, the mining regulations, the mining charter. What is going to be the magic formula that's going to bring them on board?
The magic formula is going to be, one, stabilizing the country, and two, providing a return on investment. So not creating stupid projects that nobody makes any money out of. A toll road is a worthwhile activity for business. Building dams and pipelines is also. People want to be involved in building the country, so business wants to be involved in building the country. It's been terribly difficult, and business hasn't been on this great big investment strike. It's basically, what do we invest in?
Yes.
Not going to just throw their money at rubbish. which is what they were. That's what they were being offered by the Zuma.
You guys were just pointing out Sunroll.
Wait a bit, hang on a second. the tourist thing, the visa thing, is massive.
It's huge.
You know, that's just.
I agree with this, and I mean, this has been something that you've been raising for a long time period. Just the difficulty that people have. But let's take Sunroll for example. You guys were both pointing out to how well it's doing.
Yes.
But we have an ANC Gauteng resolution that e-tolls must be scrapped.
Yes.
So how are business going to come to the party when the very investment that you say they're going to make money from is going to be undone, you know, 2-3 years down the line, Lumkile?
Well, it's going to... Sorry.
So Khima must remember that there's a history around the project. The fact that there's so much leakage around the project. Like many projects that some of the NC departments, some of our departments that the NC have engaged in. So there is no country that can develop and move forward where the user doesn't pay. So there's a political economy that pressure, I understand it. But I think South Africans need to get into their minds that, you know, for every infrastructure that we build as a country, we have to pay for it. Otherwise, Peter, then the mobilization of private sector funding becomes very, very difficult.
But this is why, you know, if you take the Amtrak train from Boston to New York, you go down, it's a 2-hour trip, and all you see is infrastructure. You're on bridge after bridge after bridge because there are lots of inlets and there's lots of water there. And you can see how America was made great, basically, by US Steel Inc. You know, they made steel and then they used it. And we're going to make cement and use it, I suppose. But you know, it's about building big infrastructure. So you just crash through obstacles and get them out of the way and make life easier for people.
President Ramaphosa gave a brilliant interview to the Business Times saying it's not about votes, it's about jobs, it's about growth. I reckon it's a bit about both,
It's a bit of both, yeah. I mean, he's talking to everyone, Karima. The rural people, the township business people, the township ordinary citizen, and talking to business, and talking to youth. It was a fantastic presentation. So what we need to do is really for our people to understand that rebuilding a country requires patience. As we build these partnerships across all sectors, people also must take responsibility protecting our assets, ensuring that when one of our assets is being vandalized, people stand up. Because one of the costs that we're incurring is that our people watch when our assets are being looted and destroyed by thugs. So we need people to really work with authorities to ensure that when an asset has been rebuilt, we own it as a society.
Peter, last question to you before we end this segment. Cyril Ramaphosa is taking decisive decisions, bold decisions. But he's not on a very strong wicket in his own party. He's being undermined every step of the way. What does he require from society to make this work?
He requires a buy-in to things like this. It's easy to sit back and think, oh, well, it'll just be stolen. He needs society to buy in, to rally behind him, and to come out, I guess, out of the election that's going to be held next year. With a much better performance than the last time Jacob Zuma went to the polls with the ANC. This is an easy thing for the country to get behind. Sure. All these projects are good for South Africa, and provided there's enough oversight and proper oversight and nothing gets stolen, we will have, it'll be...
That's a big provide, guys.
It is a big provide, but it's easy to know, because if something costs 20 million rand and it doesn't get built and the money's gone, then you know whoever was running it has stolen it.
All right.
That's why, last word, that is
absolutely
why
last word.
Election urgently is needed. Because that election, it gets amended quickly, and then we can carry on with it. Yeah. We can't be hanging on.
All right, that's where we have to leave it, gentlemen. Lumkile, thank you so very much. Peter, also thank you for jumping in there. That was Lumkile. That is Lumkile Monde. He's an economist and a senior lecturer at the Wits School of Economics and Business Sciences. We are going to be discussing how the banking sector testified at the Commission into State Capture after the break.